So great. We've got Dust here again. I'm excited. We've got loads of very important topics to talk about. Let me just give myself a quick intro. I'm a Muslim. I do happiness classes based on Islam, but for non-Muslims and Muslims, of course. That's my intro. Dust, do you want to say something about yourself?
Hello, universe. I am the Dust and come with 2-year guarantee not to rust. Thank you very much. And I'm just here from Speaker's Corner, and with the general interest of human rights has been the base work of any discussion that happens and any discourse or philosophies which communicate between people. And human rights are, I believe, the very fundamental of said discussions that happen. That's where I come from.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about why we should marry. And this is a really important topic because people are not marrying much anymore. It's becoming unpopular incredibly quickly. And there are all sorts of reasons. One, I would say, is due to individualism and poor relationships between people, the breakdown of society itself. So people are not getting to know each other except through apps, which are not really getting people together very well. And the lack of, or the people don't see the value of marriage anymore. They see it as sort of an archaic idea that doesn't need to be continued. So there's a lot of, there's so many reasons. So I'm going to talk about them from an Islamic point of view. I'd love to hear what Dust has to say, who is essentially agnostic. Yep, there comes out the chess clock, so we behave and keep to some reasonable amount of time. So let's just get going. I'm going to read out a few things. I always start with the Quran. So as my timer started, am I on 9 minutes and something? Yeah, is that me? Yeah, cool. So let's whiz through. What have I just done? Have I just pressed the wrong button? Oh, come on. Let's undo that then. Oh, there we go. Maybe. And more undos. Yeah. See, I was trying to make changes before while we were talking. I'm not very good at multitasking. Here we go. So why marry? Okay, so I'm going to break it into 3 parts, but I'm just going to say the first part because the first part is quite long by itself. So the 3 parts are the immediate benefit of getting married. The second part is a medium term, and then the third part is a long-term benefit. So I'll focus on the immediate part, immediate benefits of getting married, what the Quran has got to say about it through very poetic terminology. And the basic idea, it says, is they are a garment for you and you are a garment for them. That's Quran chapter 2, verse 188. And the word for garment means beautiful clothing that has certain properties. And the 3 properties are comfort, protection, and beautification, or embellishment would be maybe a more accurate description. So what is a comfort? There's the kindness that the Quran talks about in another verse. If I've got it somewhere. I haven't got that reference quite right now because I do everything quite in a rush. But anyway, there's kindness and other basic needs. So your sexual needs, right? There are basic needs that you have that need to be met. Otherwise, you're in a continuous situation of dis-ease. These are basic human needs, including sex. There's protection from what? There's protection from physical and moral harm. So, a woman might need protection from, in the house, for example. That women often tell me that they feel scared when they're home alone without a man in the house. And then there's the moral protection that especially both men and women need, but let's say men, from wasting money on, bad things like prostitution, and that possibly can lead on to all sorts of criminality and drugs and stuff, like because they're not having their needs met. Okay, and having too much testosterone that's been linked to risk taking, which is not surprising. So when you're not married and having regular sex, you have too much testosterone, you do more risk-taking things, which is bad for society and yourself, of course. And then there's the beautification. So when you commit to working together and men and women are completely different, so it's not so easy, but because they're so different, they learn from each other as well. So when you committed to working with the opposite, as it were, the opposite sex and opposite personalities and opposite qualities, I should say, you learn to become a more beautiful human being. So in Islam, marriage is known as half of faith, because you learn it's both difficult and both rewarding at the same time. When you go through the difficulties of doing something good, you're rewarded by becoming a better, more capable human being. That's why marriage is half of faith. Now, there's a flip side of it, and there's a big, people might say, you're saying all these things about the benefits, but there's so many difficulties, okay, which I've just started alluding to, which I'll quickly outline. So one of the difficulties, like I kind of mentioned, there's men and women are opposites. It's difficult to be with your opposite, okay? But the Quran says if you dislike them, especially to about women, it may be that you dislike a thing wherein Allah has placed much good. And this is explained a bit more by a quote from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, a woman is like a rib. If you straighten her, you will break her. And if you enjoy her, you enjoy her despite her crookedness. So that might sound very sexist or something like that. What it's pointing out to is an essential truth that if we don't take on or avoid or pretend men and women are the same, we face the problems we're facing at the moment, which is that we're surprised when men and women annoy each other because we're pretending they're the same. But when you accept that they're the same, you realize there's so much benefit in the differences, and you're expecting the differences. So women have a more fixed nature owing to their fixed role. Again, this might sound sexist, but we have to realize the biological differences so that we appreciate and make best use of the differences. It's called the division of labor or specialization of labor. If everybody tried to be both the plumber and the doctor, both jobs would be done really badly. That's why we focus on the biological realities, differences between them. We realize that there are in fact different roles, and there's plenty of evidence to prove that there are different roles. Okay, so for example, what the role that women are naturally made for, which is taking care of kids? That doesn't change much, but the world outside the home does change a lot because it involves technology, which is constantly evolving. And so men are more flexible, but women are less flexible because the women are closer, their nature is built around their role, which doesn't change much. So that's why they are more fixed in their nature, and we should accept the beauty in their relatively fixed nature. Okay, and then of course people complain a lot about, women are terrible, men are terrible. This, you hear about that on social media a lot nowadays. Another great verse to put that into context is good women are for good men. That's a short version of a longer one, which is saying good men for good women and bad men, etc. And that's Quran chapter 24 verse 27, essentially saying like attracts like. If you marry a bad person, that shows that you're a bad person as well. So try to become a better person. And then finally, I'll very quickly try to point this out. It says, and marry not idolatrous women. So I'll explain it first and then quote it, I suppose. It's something like this. So people fall for short-term pleasures of being with bad people, and bad people defined in this context I'm going to read in a second. It's about they are idolatrous, which doesn't necessarily mean they're physical idols, but they idolize other things than God. Okay, they have the wrong perspectives, they have, and so those people can often be very exciting to be with in the short term, but they create hell for you in relationships. And that's what people are finding increasingly. That's why Western women are going to the East to get more traditional, more religious women, because they've seen the hazard and the damage of marrying women from the West who are becoming increasingly godless. So I'll quickly read that quote, and that'll be my last for the first phase, which is the immediate benefit. And says, marry not the idolatrous women until they believe, even believing bondwomen or slave women is better than an idolatress, although she may highly please you. And then it says the vice versa. So that's my starting point. What do you think? Click. Chess clock.
Oh yeah, chess clock. Just to
have I used it up?
Almost
I talked for 9 minutes. Wow.
You professional, you. So you know, there's a lot to talk about here, and I think it should be noted that you haven't invited any married Jordan women to talk on this very important conversation about, is marriage good? And I think that is a glaring omission on your behalf. I don't know if that's done on purpose. Don't know your reasonings behind just having two men talking about a subject which involves different sexes, but doesn't look good. So I'd like to hear your reason give a couple of minutes reason on that, if you don't mind, at some point in this talk. And that's, the West and apps. Yeah, it's something which I've never engaged in. And, but, I'm not part of the younger generation, of course. I'm a little bit older than that sort of thing. But I don't think there's a problem with apps as long as they're done regarding the consent of individuals and the legal rights and what is expected from each other when meeting up. The exception bit should be definitely made clear within the app. It constantly brought up that you are still capable of saying no if you're a woman regarding that. Is it the best way? It's not for me, and I think there are better ways. I think that when you're young, though, that they're different. We are very different when we're young. I think that exploring reality, exploring humanity, and exploring what relationships are and can be and should be. So I think, apps should be there for that, but also apps should provide an education there as well at the same time. An education being the rights of partners and what is definitely seen as inadmissible, which is definitely seen as wrong, i.e. Expecting sex and getting sex, which is an absolute disgraceful way to treat your partner, wife, lover. And this is the reality of the world, that no means no, and that we need to see that both legally and also morally within each other. And that's very important. Apps can perform a much more profound duty. And so, and when I know people that have gotten married from these apps and have relationships from these apps, yes, it wasn't the initial intent, but when you go out, if you go out and drink or go out to meet people, or the opposite sex or whatever, then you don't always expect to marry the person you kiss or are attracted to. But it doesn't mean that can't happen, and a beautiful relationship can transpire from that, and therefore marriage. And if that's what the couple need, but you don't need marriage to define love. If you believe in an omnipresent God, and that's your thing, then God will know instantly that the sincerity of the interaction between two people. Marriage is just a legal piece of paper changing a contract done by a secular society, and you may regard yourself as part of a religion or part of a God worshipping thing, but the truth is God already knows if you're sincere and the love between two people. He doesn't need a piece of paper to deny that. That only transpires because maybe your institutions are not so religious or as they claim to be. In actual fact, are more secular and just trying to get down to the contracts between tax and land, money, wealth, and the transference of wealth, because in Abrahamic religions, and which is obviously Muslim, Christian, and Jewish, by the way, if you hadn't already worked that out, it's a lot to do with marriage becomes more about property. Marriage becomes more about ownership. Marriage becomes more about the family as a whole things, not an individual. Those sort of thoughts are dismissed with regularly and with abandonment. The individual disappears completely, and the family take over, and it's family honor, and that's where we come into honor killings in Abrahamic religions, which is present in Jordan and the West, in Christian countries, Abrahamic countries where women have no rights, very little rights, and what rights they do have are generally disregarded when it comes to under a family issue or matter. Even in the UK, there's very little respect for women outside of marriage, because it's an Abrahamic country, just like America. And there are disgusting terms thrown around for people that decide not to marry and decide to have a healthy, consensual and legal sexual life, which is nothing wrong with that at all. That's a beautiful thing if that's what you generally believe in. Of course, that's not my thing. I think that love, it comes with a great burden and a great sense of enjoyment, but it comes with a great burden because you've got to understand human beings, understand your partner, your lover, my girlfriend, or it's a very important part of that, and understanding that love is fundamental in a relationship. The height of a relationship, I think, the greatest height is love. No contract can ever touch upon those immense feelings and respect and what you get to learn from another human being. But if you choose to get married, that's fantastic. I mean, it's the celebration of, I think the real thing about a marriage isn't the contract, but just getting two families together, and for those families, expressing your great passionate power of feeling that you feel so much more alive as a human being and so much more profound in your interactions because you've met this human being, be it female or male, of course. And that itself, if God is truly omnipresent and God is truly powerful, you go, yeah, that's absolutely, that's a marriage in my books. There don't need to be no contract signed. No, that if you want contract signed, that's fair enough. But I'm just trying to make the difference here between what it is to be in love, what it is to be married, and how marriage is just really a secular little thing to make sure the courts are happy, make sure that the whatever government country you're in, the tax breaks you get, because in the Abrahamic religions they do really push tax breaks with marriage because they're trying to encourage it through a financial incentive in Abrahamic countries. That's always happened to try and encourage that. And obviously, if you're not married, it's a stigma upon you and the family. So there's not only just financial, but there's that social / community pressure from an Abrahamic religion to keep on pressuring like that. But again, I've got nothing against marriage, and if that's what people do, that's what they do. But being married is nothing wrong with that. And I think we've got to look at them. Are women safe in marriages? No, there's terrible violence in Abrahamic religions because women are not seen as equal. And marriage doesn't protect you from that, nor does it protect you from the fact of having the property taken from you and your rights as an individual taken from you. And that the man is therefore in that partnership, in the Abrahamic partnership, the not totally dominant legally, but has definite legal power. And even when constitutions like in Jordan have just changed to give women more power, changed last year, I mean, even that's really not relevant as a statement because it's the community that dictates the rights of a woman. I've got 10 seconds left. And it's the communities which interact with the honour killing or the repression and the word of mouth to destabilise a human being. So there you go, 10 minutes.
Thank you. I mean, that was such a great list of the common issues people have. Thank you. Have I clicked the button? Have I clicked?
Yeah.
I'm going to be going on minus now, minus 10 minutes or something. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to respond to all the fantastic points you made. They're fantastic because they're so common, and the reason why they see there's kind of like a summary of the reason why people are not getting married. So that's fantastic, and thank you for bringing that up. That's why I always love it when people have different ideas to myself, because it's really hard to explain an idea, because I've got loads of ideas in my head, but I'll miss out so many because I need somebody to kind of work against to remind myself of all the issues people have that I've forgotten out because I accepted how great marriage is already. But before I do that, out of thankfulness to a person called Naresh, who offers constantly to help me out in producing notes for my show. He's actually Hindu. He's not a Muslim, but he likes the things we produce, me, you, and other people I live stream with, and he really believes in what we're doing, and he likes to help out as much as he can. So I'm going to read out some of his research on the value of marriage, and I wanted to implant his research in the various points I was going to make, but I was literally making the notes for this just minutes before this live stream, so I didn't quite have enough time to prepare 100%, but here we go. Facts and logical reasons for getting married by Naresh. Okay, so a simple Google search on statistical studies on the benefits of marriage shows overwhelming evidence in support of marriage on every level. In fact, I failed to find any evidence in any scientific field that does not support marriage. He put a lot of points. Some points I deleted only because it was, although they were great, it was like basically it was saying since the dawn of time, people have used marriage to get together. But I don't think that's an argument by itself. But there are lots of arguments for the benefits I kept, which is, here we go. Anthropology historical / historical. Anthropological studies, that means, the study of history of human beings, of contemporary and historical hunter-gatherer groups show that they often establish relationships with some level of commitment, and stability. So it creates commitment and stability. From an evolutionary anthropological perspective, it's going to really testing my reading skills here. Marriage can be seen as a way to ensure the survival and successful reproduction of offspring and to provide care and protection for children, contributing to their chances of survival. Next section, he's made psychology and mental health. There are numerous studies that show that direct link between marriage and good mental health. Too many to list, so I have added a link to the study below. So he's given a link. So please, I'm going to make this, as I always do in my live streams, I produce a set of references and summaries, which I'm reading from, in the pinned comment of this video. So do check it out below. Okay, and then you've got biological benefits, health benefits. Journal Epidemiology and Community Health in 2017 titled Marriage Status and Risk of Cardiovascular Diseases, and a systemic review of meta-analysis. This study conducted a comprehensive analysis of existing research to determine the relationship between marital status and the risk of cardiovascular diseases, basically heart diseases. The researchers reviewed a total of 34 studies involving 2 million participants to assess the impact of marital status. Okay, the study found that married individuals had lower risk of developing cardiovascular diseases, including coronary artery disease. Is it the massive words, or you're just laughing at the facts?
Definitely. You could. I think me and massive words are definitely entwined quite well. No, it's the fact that your own personal health isn't that great, and yet you're coming out with all these statements like you don't exist. You do exist, Khalid, and your own personal health isn't that great. And
that's your claim. Okay, I would say most people say the opposite.
You've got a bit of a belly on you there, boy.
Yeah, that's not the same as cardiovascular disease. I would say I'm more healthy than most.
Of not being healthy. You're literally quoting that you're healthy.
In fact, sometimes being really skinny is an indication of lack of health because you've got too much testosterone because you're not married. That's often very much related. But anyway, I'll mention the issues of having too much testosterone. Anyway, so anyway, these are the statistics, right? So,
convenient.
You can, yes, they are convenient for me, not convenient for your argument. But I'll explain why they're
much healthier than you are.
I'm not sure. We'll see. So including, coronary artery disease and stroke, and compared to unmarried, divorced, and widowed, other studies show that lower rates of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and the reduction of other health issues have been associated with marriage. So basically, it makes sense because these sound exactly the same issues related to loneliness. Loneliness causes all sorts of hard problems that relate to or lead to other issues such as stress and things like that. So none of this is surprising at all. Okay, marriage and longevity. That's the last one that I'll go through. So studies show marriage can contribute to a longer lifespan, possibly due to the emotional and social support it provides. Marriage and mortality, the role of health, published in the journal PLOS One 2013. This study examined the relationship between marital status and the mortality among a large sample of individuals, provided empirical evidence suggesting that the emotional and social support inherent in marriage can contribute to longer lifespans. That does not surprise me at all, because I've talked about blue zones where people that have the most centenarians, the most people over 100 years old, they live in not just what do you call nuclear families, but extended families. So marriage is the bedrock or the core of the family. You can't, there's, the most inner ring, as it were. So these are very much related. You have good relationships, good long-term relationship, people you can rely on. It's been constantly shown as good for your health. How much time I got left before another 10 minutes is gone? 6. Oh, I'm good. Okay, so now I'm good. So
we've got 4 minutes left.
Oh, okay, fine.
So we do 10 minutes down. It goes 10 minutes down on a chess clock, and then it goes 10 minutes. Then it goes up infinitely up.
Okay,
so
sure.
You're now 6 minutes 21.
Sure. So Dust was saying, this is not true because you're looking at me, and apparently he's assessed my health just through me not being particularly skinny. Although I would say
we went to a health day together with you and the rest of the Muslim community. I witnessed the witness to your own personal health and the health of the community, which wasn't that particularly brilliant. There were some outstandingly healthy Muslims there, of course, but that wasn't the general rule of the experience.
You claim, a lot of claims there, but anyway.
I confirm that I went to that.
But anyway, thank you very much. It was very nice it was really good and open-minded and social of you to join that Muslim
I enjoyed the day immensely.
Yeah, thank you. There were loads of fun events, and it was not for particularly, it wasn't particularly competitive. It was like there was literally, and not in that event, but the previous, even smaller event, there was a blind man doing the shot puts, which people might have doubts about. But basically, it was very much not competitive. Actually, there are people who are competitive in every situation. They can make it competitive. But the point is, it was a good day. There were people who had just basically got everybody. My point of mentioning competitive and not competitive is that you just got everybody involved in being healthy, which in itself is a very good sign. And before that, I was going to mention that these studies are based on groups of 2 million. So you might look at me and claim, that I'm not healthy, even though, I've got less white hair than most people my age and so many other issues, and I eat so much healthy food and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And yes, I'm not perfect. I should have, more tense muscles in my stomach. I don't think I'm particularly fat. I don't eat much, I fast regularly and things like that. So, I mean, you can have these kind of claims made, but you can't really argue against groups of a study with 2 million people rather than study of one or two people, according to some sort of visual analysis 50, that you made.
About 50 Muslims there that day.
Yeah, the 50, probably more like 150, I would guess, on that
150,
day.
yeah.
They
were the healthiest 150 men I've seen.
They were all right. By the way, these are all men 40 plus, all the way to 80. So it was a good day, encouraging a lot of people to be more healthy than they would be otherwise. And there were speeches about it, encouraging people to go more on cycling and all sorts of other things, whatever people, float their boat, as it were. But you made so many good points that I want to whiz through your good points, okay? You said, why are women not invited? So why is my wife, my mother-in-law, my daughters not invited? Because they're all enjoying themselves outdoors, and they prefer not to be on my live streams, and that's a very important point. They're always welcome to be on my live streams, and sometimes my wife participates through the live chat, but rarely. But it matters that people are involved in things they're interested in rather than being forced to be interested based on some sort of ideology, okay, of so-called fairness, right? So if you work on or talk about things you're interested in, you're naturally more capable of that particular thing. And I don't think, and this might sound really sexist, but we need to be more understanding of the biological differences and the mental differences that ensues. There are many. Okay, our brain is a part of our biology and affects our mentality as well. Is that it's known that women are less interested in systems, and when we're talking about these large-scale topics or big groups, we're talking about systematic ways of thinking. Women are not that interested. They're more interested in the emotional individual. They're more personable. Okay, so they're just not. I think you'll see this in Speaker's Corner as well, and generally in the viewership of people like Jordan Peterson and things like that. Most viewers are, and people who are interested in debating are men, and they're just more capable. It sounds more terrible, but they are known to be more logical because they're more interested in STEM and maths and all these kind of things. So generally speaking, men are just better at this. And then to say that why are women not invited when they're not invited in all the other discussions we have all the time, and why do you only bring Josh to debate with you? You're equally sexist in that sense, So that's that. Consent, that's a massive problem now that we have moved away from marriage. So it's really good. Is that Josh has arrived? Is that Josh? Guest. It is Josh. Yay!
Yeah. Josh, our man, trying to get in shot. We need to sit a bit closer together.
Oh, yeah, get close. Okay, but yeah, we're
gonna have to. Calais, I'm gonna have to stop you because you've had 11 minutes, 12 minutes now. So I don't mind talking more about this.
Yes, I will save that. I'll highlight the stuff I mentioned. So we've just covered.
You can come back to that. We won't stop the chat, but I think once we've had 10 minutes each, then it should automatically go over.
Yeah, you're right, because it gets then people lose concentration as well. So it's good to cut it off every 10 minutes. Thank you.
And we've got a special guest as well, Mr. Josh, the man, Dust, and Josh, the team. So you've kind of come in cold, so I'll start for a talk for 5 minutes, and then you
get a feel of it. Yeah,
you'll get the gist of it. Yeah. So god damn.
But the main topic is, why should we marry?
Why should we marry? And as I said before in my opening statement, by the way, I have no issues against marriage. I think if that's what you wish to engage in on a legal contract, then that's fine. And as I said before, that if God is truly omnipresent and truly in your hearts, no marriage can ever amount to the glory which is the feeling of love between two people. And your God, Abrahamic God, would acknowledge that, regardless of the contract, because it is fundamentally, you didn't bring this up because we bring up so much stuff anyway, so I don't expect you to answer every question that I bring up, by the way, just clarify that.
But just so you know, I've highlighted the points you made and the ones I didn't respond. But anyway, I'll be coming back to them.
I'm not accusing you of ignoring it, by the way. I'm just saying, just acknowledging that. One of the points is it is a contract, a legal contract under the Abrahamic religions, and it does take away it doesn't give the rights of women equal status within that relationship. And with work, women can do many jobs. I think your own family has demonstrated the different diversity of jobs that women can do, which regarded not so long ago as, you'll have to bring this. I don't want to bring up anything personal, but women can do a diversity of jobs that was regarded as trading would be regarded as men's job. And
you can make it a bit personal. What was it that you were concerned about? It's always, I'm very open.
Anyway, I'm just trying to say that women in marriages can become male regarded as men's job, like trading and business, and engage in that. And I think you got evidence to back that up as well. And I think that's brilliant. And also honor killings in marriage. So you were saying that women are protected in marriages and feel more moral. I think that can be true. I'm not saying, I'm not disputing, I'm not attacking marriage, by the way. I'm just attacking the absolute, you give absolute credence. That's what I'm attacking here, to marriage being absolutely the end of the subject as being the only way to have a meaningful relation with a human being. Honor killings do happen and do transpire. I think that has to be addressed. And in communities, that's regarded as a norm from the Abrahamic religions, because that's how Abrahamic religions have always operated, which is that this tribal law situation is the dominant law. And I disagree with that completely. I don't think it magically manifests itself that way. I think there is intent behind that, and always has been, to undermine women's rights. And I'll just say one last thing. There's so many things to say. I'd like to see you do a 400-meter run and time that. And I'll time my 400-meter run as well.
That might be an all right. I don't know. I have to find a 400-meter track.
No, you just run down the street. Run down the street and run back. That's all you need to do. Just Google. Just get a rough.
Google map it. I get it. Okay.
You Google map it and do that. And are you happy to talk about marriages and how you feel and what you come across? Right. Do you mind if we give Josh 10 minutes or?
Yeah. I'm very excited to hear what Josh has got to say.
If he wants to take that.
Yeah.
All right. We'll pause our clock. And Josh, go for it. And
I think that marriage it's not for everybody, but I do believe that it can, if it works out, if it can really work between two people, preferably only two people. But I do honestly believe that it is a reciprocal. It's more than just a legal contract. It's a reciprocation of of trust and of loyalty and of respect, tolerance, forgiveness, and of affection. And I mean, it's a very profound, very deep thing. But I do think, obviously, in terms of the legality of it, it has to be, even-handed and commensurate, and, as I say, reciprocal. And it has to ensure that both parties are respected. That the husband and the wife, or the husband and the husband, or the wife and the wife, they both get an even say in what the terms.
What does commensurate mean? What does that mean? commensurate?
Like proportionate.
Okay.
Roughly even.
Like reciprocal, you were saying as well, weren't you? Like both ways. People help each other and play some both. Okay, I get it now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, it means equal footing.
Okay.
Basically,
yeah.
equal footing.
I'm still on my own. Oh, what happened? I'm still on my own clock, by the way. I just want to say that I think that any country that believes in marriage is insincere in the extreme if gay marriage is not included in that statement. Insincerity. If marriage is about love before God, and God really does see and feel that love, then absolutely gay marriage must be part of that culture, tradition, family, country, constitution, and legal status equal amongst all other marriages. I think that's a very important point to make. And that's kind of like the last thing. Do you want to say anything else on what you were saying? Because you've got lots of time.
Yeah, no, it has to be inclusive. It has to be. As I say, it's not for everybody, but it's for anybody. Who wants to have a reciprocally binding, bond together. Yeah.
So in Russia,
was
the marriage still in Russia? And it's a silly question, but.
Well, yeah, obviously.
So when communists.
Yeah, no, you still have marriage, obviously.
So even in communist countries, you still have marriage, and that was still honoured and respected, and the contract signed.
Yeah. I mean, of course, women did get a lot more equality and say in the terms of divorce under in the Soviet Union. At least officially speaking. I don't know if in practice that was always rigorously adhered to, but there again, I mean, I think in a lot of countries and in a lot of communities, marriage is a bit more it's a bit more of a tentative, dubious thing than what's written on paper. But yeah, I mean, certainly, progress in terms of marriage equality has been made in leaps and bounds. Like there was a I think it was like a Reform Act that was enacted in Britain actually as early as 1882 that allowed a woman to keep her property separate from her husband's if she wanted to divorce him. So, that's one example of, marriage legislation being very progressive.
Yeah, I mean, these laws have definitely happened in Abrahamic societies. But again, the community can override through pressure and social pressure and demeaning a woman that is actually standing up for her own rights. So, yeah, these laws can happen. But the community is also has to change and develop an understanding that women are equal. And it doesn't mean equal as in, I think what maybe is in they can do anything a man can do. I don't mean that, but they can do anything they can do. That's what I mean. It sounds like common sense. It sounds like blatant common sense. But if a woman can run a business, therefore she's equal to any man who runs a business. And women, even from all across the world. And in Iran, it was until the Christian Abrahamic religion from United States inserted a Muslim leadership there.
Well, the Shah, isn't it?
The Shah. Women didn't have to. Women were just given rights there, and there's loads of photographic evidence.
To be fair, though, since the formation of the Islamic Republic, women's rights in Iran have been degraded. I mean, I'm not saying that it's.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but that was after the Shah was overthrown. Not that the Shah was any angel; he wasn't at all. I mean, he was a stooge and a Western puppet. But the Islamic Republic of Iran has also backpedaled quite a lot. That being said, of course, America did help the Islamic Republic of Iran as well, actually, in the Iran-Contra affair. So the West was, even in that case, the West was complicit in the degradation of women's rights in that country, albeit indirectly and unofficially.
Yeah, my time's up on. We both had 10 minutes each so far, so I don't know if you want to make a final conclusion on this, or do you want to?
Me?
What are you feeling at the moment?
There's so many good points that you made. Literally, I could, if I was to count them, because I've been writing them down as you've been going along. So you Dust have got like about 12, and then Josh made about 5 or 17, maybe 20 points almost. Maybe there's a little bit of overlap between them. So I want to respond to them because there's so much value in them.
Hang on. Let's just agree on the time then. Let's just agree on the time before you start. So do you want 5 more minutes each?
5 more minutes each? Oh, that's you know what? Let's go with that. Let's just see how it goes. I've got a ton to say, but I think I'll try to whiz through them because it might not be interesting for everybody to hear the full details of everything, but at least the overview. So it could, okay. Let's go for 5 minutes. Go. All right. Okay. So how do I want to approach this? Because I started off by saying I wanted to talk about, the immediate, medium, and long-term benefits. And I haven't really talked about the medium-term benefits. And then I will respond to all the really interesting comments, which reflect many of the reasons why people are increasingly not getting married by Josh and Dust. Those comments are very, let's say, good points to help me respond to. But anyway, let me quickly, but I think it's good to give the overview through these, the remaining points, which is the medium-term benefits and the long-term benefits. And I should warn people, they're highly sexist, but I think our experiment, the point I'm going to make, that our experiment in the West with pretending men and women are the same, and there are not differences, and ignoring the biology between us, and therefore, all the other results of that biology, which is the emotions and the logic and the brains and everything, ignoring that has led to the lack of people respecting the need for marriage. Because if you're exactly the same as somebody else, why would you need to work with them? In a company, you work with people with different abilities so that, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right? So that's one of the things that are missing. And that's why that's kind of the precursor to some of the really sexist things I'm going to say. So, the verse of the Quran says, men are guardians over women because Allah has made some of them excel others because they, the men, spend of their wealth. So virtuous women are those who are obedient and guard the secrets of their husbands and with Allah's protection. Okay, so briefly what we're saying is men are more capable in some respects than women in terms of the outside world and producing money. Okay, so God has given them the responsibility. The specialization is called, in economics, it's called specialization of labor. Okay, and women, and there's lots of studies to support this, stuff like the baby brain. So when a woman goes through pregnancy, her brain literally restructures to be better at taking care of children. And it should be really obvious. Like we should see that, women breasts grow and they lactate and all these kind of things. These are really obvious things, but somehow we've forgotten that we're part of nature and each biological role is important, and we pretend everything's just a social construction, an idea in our mind, but it's not true. There are biological truths behind the difference between men and women, and we should take advantage of this, such as men are particularly interested in STEM fields, which makes them more industrious, which makes them better for creating the world we exist in. That's why men are the ones who have made the bridges and the buildings and things like that. And if we chose people to build bridges and stuff just because we wanted to be equal, we won't have bridges that last. So this is just, and then the long-term benefits, people don't realize the long-term benefits of marriage. I'm going to go through them very quickly, and I'll read it very quickly. Again, it sounds very sexist. Your wives are a tilth for you. That tilth is a very old-fashioned word of like a kind of soil or a fertile place for you to grow things. Okay, and what is that? Your children, essentially, right? So approach your tilth when and how you like, and send ahead some good for yourself. Essentially, it's saying that you have children to create a future for yourself. Okay, they will take care of you in your old age and things like this. You cannot just, and you have actually a social responsibility to have children, because people don't realize that when you give tax, that tax doesn't support you in your old age. It's actually the younger population. So if you don't have children, other people have children, their children are supporting your lifestyle when you get older. Okay, and there's so many beautiful things I want to say from people like Elon Musk and C.S. Lewis, who kind of just to summarize these points, I haven't got time yet to respond to all the wonderful, interesting comments that you made about marriage, both of you. But he said, I think love is the answer, right? This may sound corny, but it's true. If we could all just relax and love each other, the world would be a much better place. We forget, we think everything is transactional. It's just about getting more and more stuff. But it's truly about love and commitment to each other, and marriage is part of that. I'm not sure if anybody disagrees. That's by the way, if you're not an Elon Musk fan, that's a quote from the Joe Rogan Experience interview in 2020. And from C.S. Lewis, famous author, I think Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and some other books, housewife's work is surely in reality the most important work in the world. Your job is the one for which all others exist. When we think about why do we make money, what's the point of it? It's all about love, really, and creating that homely, stable society. Now. Okay, I'll stop there. But maybe sometime in the future.
Finish your sentence.
So I think. Oh, okay. The sentence was that there is nothing much more than love. That's why we make money. That's why people buy even sports cars, because they just want to be loved. They, when the people buy a Ferrari that you don't really need, is because they feel lonely and want attention. And that's my last little comment there. There were so many good comments you made. Maybe I'll make another video by myself or something, or we will talk about it, or maybe we'll do another live stream about it at some point.
Do an extra one.
Yeah.
Josh, do you wanna start? Or
well, I mean, obviously men and women are different in a lot of ways. They're similar in a lot of others, but difference and diversity does not mean sort of inequality. I mean, we're both roughly equally sentient, conscious, cognitive beings, and there needs to be, as I say, a level playing field for both, obviously with adjustments made for each gender about how they respond in somewhat different ways to the external environment, to stimuli, to sensory perception, because they do perceive it. Everybody perceives things slightly differently to the other. So I think we've got to, not conflate, diversity and diversity with inequality. You don't treat someone different because of their creed or their ethnic background by the same token, by the same philosophy. You wouldn't treat them, while you would make concessions about the different ethnicity or creed that they may have. You don't give them preference, nor do you give them nor do you exclude them by the same philosophy. You wouldn't do that to a gender. Obviously, in the armed forces, for instance, obviously, concessions have to be made for female combatants. Like they should still be allowed to, serve. I know we're digressing slightly, but they'd still be allowed. This is just one example, but they'd still be allowed to serve in the combat area in the same capacity. But of course, we also have to bear in mind that women are generally physically slightly weaker than men in general, in terms of the amount of physical exertion they can exert, and obviously certain strenuous tasks maybe should not be favoured for them. I'm not saying they should be excluded from them, but obviously concessions like that have to be made. But concessions does not mean preferential treatment, nor does it mean relegation. It simply means you are adjusting to their different needs and requirements, just as you would a disabled person, who physically or mentally disabled person. But you're not giving them specialist treatment. You're giving them or preference, favoritism. You're just providing them with something that they may need more than others because of their physical or mental state. My point being is that yes, women and men are different and similar in a lot of ways. Concessions have to be made for each gender, for both genders. So while they should be treated with somewhat differently, it doesn't mean they should be treated unequally. In other words, differential treatment does not mean unequal treatment. It just means you're making adjustments for either their strengths or their shortcomings. But we don't want to conflate difference. Again, this comes back to my original point. We don't want to conflate difference with inequality or favoritism.
Yeah, and that within the legal status of a country, of course, not just a community or individual perspective of what another human being is or isn't. And I'm just gonna, I think, so I'm just gonna come at it's not a Western thing to have equal rights, or it's not a Western thing to have not to be in a marriage. And it's not a Western thing. These negatives that you highlight and then label as Western, that is just absolutely just a not valid way to interact with such important points by dismissing it as Western or dismissing it as socialist or atheist, anything like this. These are very valid points that have happened over thousands of years and within any community, what rights we have and what rights are we owed. And normally the easy way out of a complicated situation, you go as well, you look at the person in front of you and go, what's the big difference between me and you? Oh, you're a woman, therefore I can apply any sort of quick law off the top of my head regarding that situation. And that's absolutely unacceptable.
Obviously, you know, if a woman, you know, if somebody is a woman, obviously you wouldn't, you would perhaps not, while you would engage with them socially in the same way you would a male, you would also, you know, you would also have to make concessions in say, in a medical context, for instance, or you know, like or even you would have to make concessions in a legal context. You know, that's, you know, that while we have the same rights, these can be applied somewhat differently because of our physiological differences.
Yeah, no one's disputing the physiological differences at all. It's clearly obvious. It doesn't even need to be said that women bear children. That doesn't even need to be said. That is understood all over the universe and the world. Sorry, not the universe. Expanded a bit too far. But the whole world, everyone understands that. So bringing that up as a point is really very mute and speculative on your behalf of trying to create a valid argument for marriage or not marriage. I'm not even arguing against marriage. That's not where I'm even coming from. Coming from the point of view that women should be treated as equal and women deserve more rights in a way, because their biology is the biology that does deliver children, which makes them very vulnerable during that period. And those rights obviously mean maternity leave, obviously mean extra healthcare leave. And in National Health Service, it should all be free anyway. But in countries like America, women have to pay for their pregnancy, have to pay for their childcare. No, it's even worse than that. In America, the Abrahamic country, they have to pay for the delivery of the actual child.
Well, yeah, they don't get. It's one of the,
which is thousands of pounds. You're already in debt in America, in the Abrahamic country of America, already in debt just by giving birth to a child, getting the ambulance, etc., and all those doctors. It's absolutely horrendous. I've got. Should we both round up with an overarching? Everybody should round up with a overarching statement.
I'd like to.
Which is no more than a minute, let's say.
Sure.
All right. So I'll just conclude with saying that marriage is nothing wrong with marriage. Do it. But the rights of women are equal to men. And gay marriage. Okay, do you want to go first, or shall I?
I know Josh. I like Josh to hear Josh before. I like to be last.
Are you sure?
All right.
Yeah.
Because I came late.
I feel like you're a guest. No, but you're still very much my guest. I love to hear what you've got to say, Josh.
So this is just a conclusion.
Yeah.
And
in conclusion, adjustments are made for both genders, but not preferential, or biased, or partial. Or partial treatment or preference, or privilege. There are privileges afforded to both genders in proportionate, commensurate terms, but this is not a mark of.
Yeah, go on.
What you want me to do it in relation to the title?
Sorry, I'm just showing him an article I got on the screen. Apologise.
Oh.
If ignore me, I shouldn't have done that. My bad.
Yeah,
get extra.
Yeah, but ultimately, adjustments and accommodations must never be confused with privilege or bias or preference.
Sorry for interrupting.
For either gender.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. I've been over eager. I apologise. Do you want to go next?
Yeah,
Khaled,
sure. So I'd like to start off with, I think we agree to some extent, there are biological differences and those differences require different rights. I think I extend them from an Islamic point of view more than you guys. And the result is that in Islam, you said it's nothing to do with atheism or culture, whatever, or the West or East. Actually, it is statistically. So Muslims have the most long-term relationships, the most marriages, the most children. So basically, it demonstrates that my concept through Islam works. And you guys, or generally people, if I go to people, most people in this. In the West, they're suffering from lack of long-term relationships, lack of long-term marriages. So the idea is those differences do make a difference to the Western detriment, I would say. So that and thanks to all the comments in the live stream as well, and thanks to everybody watching at the moment.
Okay, and I'll just finish the because marriage seems successful in your country, it doesn't mean it's successful. It just means fear, intimidation, and family pressures are very dominant, and that's not the way a marriage should be conducted or measured in the quality of its success within a society. Marriage, as I referred to earlier, should be about love, and you're free to love, and you should be brought up in society that isn't under the horrors of austerity. Austerity, capitalism undermine love, and I do believe that Abrahamic religions undervalue the love, absolutely. And marriage isn't a sign of success. Absolutely terrible statistic to make, because there's honor killings that happen in Abrahamic religions across Afghanistan, across Jordan, across all these countries, and in America, and in the UK. The idea of measuring society on success in relationships or marriage is an absolute fallacy and a profoundly disturbing one. I think that's what you're trying to present. And I'm just trying to say that love is the idea of a successful society, being in love with a human being, which can then translate to marriage, of course. But if you do believe in a God, God would know whether you're in love or not, and he will know that's the absolute truth of the relationship. Thank you.
And just do check out my YouTube videos on life in Jordan, and you can see that women are very happy, more happy than in the West. So you see the reality of that. Cool. So should we pause that? We're in that. Do you want to do your
the dust is settled? I want to say goodbye to this section of the video.
Yeah, no.
Thank the viewers for viewing.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, fellow YouTubers. This is on it's StreamYarders. Well, fair enough. StreamYarders.
Yeah, no. StreamYard is going through YouTube, and by the way, there's a thank you from one of the people watching to all of you guys. If you can
thank
see
you very
that.
much. I can't read that. My glasses don't do
Says
that.
thank you, Khaled, Dust, and Josh.
Thank you. Yeah, I can see it. Thank you, Khaled, Dust, and Josh.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We may not like
Eunuch Wolf Shad Khan.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you for reading that out. I couldn't read that.
Yeah.
I'll just say thank you, viewers, for listening, and thank you, Khaled, for hosting this incredible show. I think it's incredibly important that diversity of thought is transmitted across the universe for all ears, whether atheist, religious, or something in between, and other. I think all ears are appreciative of what we're doing here. So thank you. And I am the dust, and the dust has now settled.
Bye. Just join us in the. You know what? I'll put a link to the next stream. Where's the link? So that people can join in the next stream if they want to. Oh, I didn't prepare it. Do you go to my channel? I'll put my channel, I suppose. Sleeping Buddha's got peace signs. So this time I didn't actually prepare links to the viewing channel. I mean, let me just give my channel. Maybe I should go to.
You're still live, you know.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to put it in the
Well,
chat along.
We're going to talk about the war machine next, and is capitalism. So that's what's happening next, everyone. So don't go away. We're going to be having another.
But we're going to do it in a different. The reason why I'm giving my channel is because we're going to cut this stream and start a new stream pretty much immediately. I do want 1 minute to get a drink. I've run out of drink. I'm so thirsty right now. But yeah, we'll be back in a minute. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.